Went for a ride.
I call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Chairman Kelly.
Present.
Legislator Quackenbush.
Present.
Legislator Diamond.
Present.
Legislator Whites. Legislator Beniak.
Here.
Legislator Duchessi.
Here.
Legislator Wheeler. Present. Legislator Isabel.
Here.
Legislator Patel.
Here.
All right, we'll stand for the pledge. Madam Attorney, keep it leader.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the purpose of this meeting is the Dominion New Market Project. Usually at a special meeting we don't have public comment, but so many of you have come out tonight, so I'll open the floor up to you. Just please state your name and your residence, and keep it as brief as possible as we have other meetings later on tonight. So.
Phil Scally from Minden. I would, first of all, like to thank you for having this special meeting. This is very important to us that you consider this. As you know, our lives have been absorbed in this project for the last year, and it's important to bear in mind that we're not asking Dominion not to build this project. We're simply asking them to do it with the best available technology. And this is, we hope you bear this in mind. Thank you.
Keith Shue, I had an opportunity to speak with you and give a presentation to you a month or two ago. Very grateful for that. Also very grateful that you all are taking the time to deliberate over this issue and think carefully about what's happening here. Lots of folks are affected by this. This is an important decision. This is an important thing that is happening in this region. This compressor station, if it's built as it's proposed, stands to do some damage that people are going to be experiencing for decades to come. I'll tell you that just this past weekend, I was in the Adirondacks, drove back home, came down through Little Falls and wound my way through Minden by David Stockwell's house, and just was impressed by the beauty of the area. The autumn leaves falling, people tending to their farms, rolling hills, Amish folks, as I said, tending to their farms, and it's just beautiful. And I would hate to see that jeopardized by a project that potentially harms the folks who live there. I know and there are some Amish or Mennonite folks here, and I think it's important to keep in mind that these are people who live off of the land. They raise their families here, generations of families. Every day, the air they breathe, the food they eat, is food that they grow right there in the soil. There's a tremendous commitment to living off of that land and to being part of that land. These are folks that have the most to lose if this project is approved in its current form. Like Phil said, we're not asking for this project to be turned down. We think that's probably not going to happen. We think probably we'll be issuing an EA in the near future. But we do believe, we strongly believe, that improvements should be made so that the people of this community, of this region, are not negatively impacted. There are reasonable, cost-effective technologies that could be implemented to do this in a better way to reduce the exposure of emissions. And that is basically what we're asking for. So thank you again for considering this resolution.
Hi, my name is Allegra Schechter. I'm from the town of Roseboom on the town board, and I'm not an immediate neighbor, but our town, which is 12 miles from the compressor station, when we first heard about it, our town board had no qualms about immediately asking for an environmental impact statement from FERC. They were very upset about it. I don't know if you were aware that 5 towns in Otsego County passed resolutions almost immediately asking for an environmental impact statement on this compressor station because we were so disturbed by it. And we're miles away, but it's going to affect the whole area. It's not just there, of course, the people right there are going to have it the worst, but it will affect the whole area. And we were Cherry Valley, Springfield, they're all very concerned about this. So if you can just ask Dominion to use the proper technology so that we won't be so irreversibly affected, would be great. We really would appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak?
Dave Stockwell from Minden. Thank you for looking at the proposal that we did put together. I think we spent a lot of time with this, looking at available technology that could be used at this site. Most of what we put together is relatively simple and could easily be done. If FERC or New York DEC does not agree with it, it doesn't hurt to ask, and we really appreciate you asking them to look into these things. We did spend a lot of time looking into this technology and understanding what was going on there. It is not really a town of Minden deal. All this exhaust from this site hits the rest of Montgomery County. I live north and west of it. I'm in a safer situation than somebody who lives in Amsterdam. All the particulate matter falls on you. So this is a county deal. It's not just a town of Minden deal. So I appreciate your concern. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Julie Huntsman, like Dr. Stockwell, I'm a veterinarian. I live in north and west of County, and my town was one of the towns that passed a resolution asking that the folks of Minden have their own hearing because they were going to be personally impacted, and also asked for a full environmental impact statement. And I just want to say generally, the best medicine is preventative, and doing something right at the beginning. And I know Dominion has the means to do it, and Keith and Dr. Stockwell researched this really thoroughly, and the techniques are known by the industry. They're employed in other places where I think they might feel a little more pressure to do it because maybe it's a little more population dense, but there's lots of good folks there who are going to be affected, and children and animals, and why not do it the right way, and they could be an industry leader, and it may even create a few more jobs, actually, if they do it right. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Montgomery, living in Fort Lane, like if you draw a straight line, it's less than 2 miles from the pumping station. Just concerned with the whole project. Absolutely pro jobs. We need jobs. We need to support the industries. At the same time, I think Dominion has a responsibility to put this project in a proper way, so all of us and the future generations don't get affected. And it's not uncommon practice to ask them to set aside some funds in case of emergency. If they believe the project is safe, I think there should not be any problem. Thanks.
Anybody else? No? Well, thank you. Tom?
I would offer up a resolution for tonight's meeting and propose that the resolution that these folks have presented be considered by this legislature tonight. That is the little bit longer version, and I believe it's the same one that the town of Minden has already passed. Am I right about that? That's the same exact one, right? Close. But anyway, that's before I can discuss it. If there's somebody that would be willing to second it.
I'll second it for discussion.
I don't want to beat up the something that I've already said in the past, but I'll say it again because some of these folks weren't here. Back in 2002 or 2000, maybe even 2001, when I was the supervisor of that town, we had a project that had come in prior to me taking office called Mohawk Valley Organics. And I know David remembers it well, although I don't know if he received the brunt of that problem, but people downwind from him certainly did. And it did affect a huge area, of not just those few people out in that area, but the smell was terrible. Anyway, $250,000 later, we were able to get rid of it. Someone said earlier about preventative medicine. The best medicine is preventative medicine. You know, had people been able to see what that was going to be prior, I'm certain that would have been the avenue that they would have taken. But you know, I don't see a harm in asking. You know, we're just asking. And I would ask the legislators with me tonight that just ask and say to FERC and others that this is what we'd like to see happen. And you know what? They're going to make a decision on the 20th of October, and it's going to be, you know, yes, no, whatever. That'll be up to them. We're not tying anybody to anything. We're just giving a thumbs up and supporting these people. So I'd ask the legislature to get behind that with me.
I agree with everything the legislator Quackenbush just said. My main concern with this, the difference between the two is one was drafted by our attorney, which kind of has more of the letter of the law, which I think it is our local responsibility to protect our land and our people, which is why I'm here to support this. I'm just concerned where the other one has more of a detailed expansion that causes me a little bit more of concern. I'm not sure exactly how our attorney would feel on that. My main concern is protecting our land, our people, because it has to come from the local level. I sponsored the first one. I definitely seconded it for discussion. I'm interested to know what my fellow legislators think on other resolution. I think that the first resolution would have covered all of the specifics in the other resolution without itemizing the specifics. Because what we're trying to do is let the federal government, FERC, know where we're coming from and our stance. Is that correct? Okay. Yes.
I don't have a problem itemizing, especially when it comes to the federal government. They seem to have amnesia. They seem to
That's
not.
true.
They seem to say later, "Oh, geez, if you would have just asked for that." I'm only talking from experience because it happened to us.
Of course.
If you would have just asked for that, I certainly don't want to go against an opinion of our attorney. What I'm saying is that if this resolution that I've asked for your consideration truly puts us as a legislature in jeopardy of breaking some law, of something that we shouldn't be doing, then by all means we shouldn't. I don't know that it does that. I don't know that it jeopardizes any lawful or willingness to break the law on our part. We're just simply asking a question. And you know what? We're itemizing it. Legislator Wheeler is absolutely right. We're saying exactly what we want.
But I like what it says.
I do too.
Installation of the, I mean, we want fuel-saving vapor recovery technology. We want to protect our local people in the land that we represent. So,
I mean, if there were something, if I could, that truly jeopardizes and maybe the county attorney can elaborate on an item here or there that does, and I know it's shortened up quite a bit from what this is. But if there's some specifics that really do truly put us in jeopardy by just offering our opinion, then I would say, you know, maybe we gotta do something with this, but I don't see that. I see, you know. Anyway.
If I could ask maybe from a legal standpoint, what's the downside risk of the original resolution as opposed to the condensed version? And also, by voting on this and approving this, what is the commitment that we're making? Is it supporting an action? Is it putting something in place? What are we really doing here tonight? I get the feeling that what we're doing is we're supporting the community and what their wishes are, or what their needs are. And if that's what we're here to do, I'm in support of doing that. I don't know of the downside risk that might be associated with offering support. Could you?
Sure. I looked at the resolution proposed, and I believe that this is drafted with more of a local town planning board in mind, not a county legislature. A lot of the resolved clauses are actions that really the Montgomery County Legislature does not have the power to direct somebody to do. For instance, resolve that an independent comprehensive analysis by experts acceptable to local government be performed of air dispersion at the site. We can't really resolve or order somebody to do that on a county level. Resolve that a comprehensive analysis of the proposed design relative to throughput be required to evaluate the amount and size of compressed air equipment. We can't really do that either. What I did with the one that I put together, and which I still think really oversteps the power of the legislature still, is took where I think they were trying to go with the resolution and tailored it to get the main concepts down. I think at the end of the day, really, the request is for Montgomery County to send a request to FERC to do a full EIS instead of an EA. And as a county, this is a legislature. Really, even that is going a little beyond, because this is something that likely will end up in front of our county planning board, and us taking a stance as a legislature puts us out there, and we're going beyond our authority. So that was the main thoughts in revising it. This is really a planning board issue. This is something that the Minden Planning Board has the power and authority to demand on a seeker level, even an EIS. And I think if you want to do something, a resolution in support, it is good. But I think you have to be careful in your resolution to not be directing people to do certain things, because that's going beyond our authority.
Do you want to know?
If I offered up an amendment to this and had a whereas preceding all of this entire resolution that said, whereas we realize we don't have the power to do all that, and this is merely a resolution of support of what others have done, doesn't that take us off the hook?
But if you have the resolve clauses, which is the direction part, that's the more concerning part for me.
Even if we said resolve that we support Minden and other local municipalities for the independent comprehensive analysis, resolve that we support a comprehensive analysis, we support the other municipalities and their request for, and so on, where we support, just throughout those resolves. I understand where you're going with that now. I do. I understand that you're, so if we said, resolve that Dominion, we're in support of the other municipalities that are asking Dominion to be required to modify the proposed design of, we're saying we're in support of the other municipalities. I just tonight want to show these other municipalities that we're in support with.
Yeah, if you wanted to alter it, I would obviously have a lot of suggestions, but that would,
I think with any resolution you pass, you have to keep in the back of your mind just the authority of the legislature.
Yeah, and that first resolution would say, understanding we have no authority.
And there's no further conflict or instruction to the
Yeah.
county planning board or any government entity.
I think, Joe? Yeah.
I think the resolution that Megan presented does the things you want to do. I think that's the original resolution that we had.
It's the stapled one that we're discussing.
Oh, that's what we're discussing, okay. Thank you. I'm sorry. I thought we were discussing both of these.
Well, we are, but one was called the original, which this isn't the original.
No problem.
All right. No, they're all in the same. So are you discussing?
No, I'm just saying that I think a resolution that Megan presented
Okay.
does what they want us to do adequately and is staying within our bounds as a county, basically.
Right.
Sorry, Chairman. I didn't mean that.
You know, as I've stated before, I'm generally not in favor of this type of resolution. But in this particular instance, I do have some support with respect to seeing the full environmental impact statement. And in my mind, there's no reason why one of those cannot be prepared to reply to the concerns of these people. And both of these show support for the full EIS, and I think that that's where we really need to be focusing. If the board is going to show some support for this, that's really the crux of the issue there. With respect to the other forms of technology that are available, I'm sure this research has been done properly, and I can support that too. That's not really what's necessary here. I think it's support of the full EIS, and I would lend my support to the original resolution.
The one that was discussed in committee.
The short one.
The short.
If everyone's done, I was going to pull my second sponsor, unless anyone else has any more discussion. On the second one first. Yes. I do believe it clarifies, as Legislator Chessy said, there is a detailed environmental impact statement, so it does clarify.
Did anybody pick up did you ask if anybody wanted to pick up her?
No. Does anyone want to pick up the second?
Yes.
Well, for discussion purposes, just so we can keep going here. But I think what's at hand here is that apparently the short form was used for the environmental impact statement. Is that what's been submitted? Could we, Mr. Chairman?
The history of this is that several communities asked for an EIS many months ago. Okay, that hasn't happened. FERC has proceeded with an EA. That EA will be coming out in about a week. So if you have a resolution that just calls for an EIS, you're really not saying a whole lot because we're going to get an EA. The value of the resolution you have before you is those details that describe if it goes forward, regardless if it's an EA or an EIS, if it goes forward, that these are the set of things that are important to protect the community. That's why I would urge you to go with the version that has that content in it.
I think the issue here, though, and our counsel, I know, is correct in the assertion that really the resolved portions of the resolution are the whereases don't matter. You can have a resolution without a whereas. It could just be resolved that we're going to. And in this case, typically, in all cases, when a body takes an action by resolution, that's exactly what they're doing. They're taking an action. And I think the point that Corporation Council has made is that we're not really empowered to take that action. So when this says resolve that an independent comprehensive analysis by experts acceptable to local government be performed, how do we cause that to go into effect? See, that may be something that we would like to see, but in terms of a resolution and this body resolving that happened, we can't make that happen. Frankly, that's why I question the whole, this type of resolution to begin with. And I want to support you, and I'm gonna support this, but do you see that how that's weak and how there could be some question involved here? If we had something that was more affirmative in terms of what we could do, then that would be a different matter. So if we worked on and resolved that we were simply supporting that independent comprehensive analysis, you know, that would be a little bit different. And I know they're words, but you know, well, I guess I made my point. Thank you.
Doesn't have a second, so.
He seconded it.
Duke seconded.
Oh, you did second it? So, and I just heard what Duke had said, and I agree, and that's why I said earlier, would it answer the concerns you have if in each one of those further resolves, we say that this is not, we understand we don't have the authority to take this action, however, we do support our other communities that have and what they've requested. Now we've taken ourselves out of that. Would that do it for you?
I think when we had the initial presentation, it seemed at the time, I think we have to ask what the end goal is here, what the request really is for us to do. It seemed from the initial presentation that the request was, you know, that FERC was going to do an EA instead of EIS. They wanted support from the county, you know, just voicing an opinion that should happen. It sounds now like that's off the table, and I guess in order to work on language in a resolution that perhaps, you know, gets across what you're being asked to support in a way that we can do it without overstepping our boundaries, I think that we maybe need more information at this point. I mean, what is the next step, and what are, you know, what's the next step in the process, and what are they looking for from the county as far as an opinion, and what can we do without overstepping our planning board?
Chair, hearing what council's asked us, could we ask that question? I mean, what is it that we're looking for so that we can get you where you need to be?
Yeah, I mean,
and still answer the concerns?
I mean, this is kind of where time is of the essence. This resolution is speaking to two agencies, the federal agency, which is FERC, but also the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. So the EIS question, EA-EIS, that's the FERC question. You know, the reality of the matter is that within about a week or so, there's going to be an EA that gets issued by FERC. And what you're saying in this entire resolution about improvements that can be made, this is important content, this is an important message to the state DEC. So I would encourage you to have a resolution that contains this content that is directed to the DEC, because ultimately the DEC has to approve the air quality permits, and these are the type of things that they should be considering. So it's not really just a FERC matter, where EA versus EIS matter. You know, this is directed, you know, as it's written, is directed to two agencies, FERC. You know, that's going to play itself out in another week or so, but also to the New York State DEC, which is the important entity at this point.
What we just heard earlier was that we're concerned that we're not a planning board or that would be making these decisions. And I had offered up a suggestion of cleaning up those resolves and saying that we support it. Would that do it or not?
What I think I understood you to say about supporting the
other municipalities and what their decision was.
That kind of makes sense to me. I mean,
That would be great.
Made sense to me too.
I was under the impression that the difference between the EA and the EIC was the specifications that were being broken out. And that's what you're kind of clarifying.
It's the EA versus the EIS is the process that FERC goes through. And they decide how they're going to look at this project. And unfortunately, they decided to take the fast track approach, which we don't think is the most responsible way to proceed. Nevertheless, the reality of the situation is that's the track we're on. However, the state DEC has a significant role in this because they have to approve the air quality permits. Much of what you're seeing here relates to the air emissions. A lot of things we've been talking about is the air emissions, so the DEC can weigh in on that. Having this input is very valuable when they do their job and look at their piece of it.
So if we went from, I'm so sorry, but if we went from one to the other and eliminated the specifics then those would be eliminated.
I mean, I think I saw a version of the short form, the short version, which was just basically a few lines that called for an EIS. Like I said, and it's not going to mean a whole lot in another week or so. DEC is really the entity at this point in time that's going to hopefully make the difference here. I mean, it's important for FERC to also have the same message, I believe. So again, I would urge you to go with the version that has that content. So every agency of the government, federal, state, and local, all see that. And there is, as you know, there's tremendous support for this. Minden and Fort Plain, the village of Sharon Springs, Canajahari. We now know that towns in Otsego are also considering resolutions of this form. So you're not really going out on a limb here. It's something that I think is supporting the community and what they're requesting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, clearly, these agencies that this would be submitted to can just reject it out of hand if they leave that off. So we don't need to make too much of it. I'd just like to, what I'd like to do is clean up and I'm not worried about the whereases, I'm concerned about the resolved. Because we're not directing any action with respect to the resolved. If we can, if our resolved portions can just express that we are supporting these notions, if we can craft some language for each of those three resolves, then we can support this.
If I could have a moment, if there is not the time frame like the FERC that we thought initially we had, I would like to have a week to work on it and to fix it. I think there's going to be a bunch of revisions just as far as making sure we're wording it in a way where we're not directing that action be taken that we can't direct. Trying to keep the spirit of, the request in place, but if I could have some time to work with it, having heard the additional concerns.
The 20th is the process.
If I can make a suggestion, and I support you wholeheartedly in your mission. I think the struggling point right now is how we get to the point where everybody's comfortable with the conversation and the verbiage. I would like to add that we support this within the abilities, our abilities to enforce the same. Which I think, obviously I'm not an attorney, I don't play one on TV, but I think it should be, this is not a life-threatening or a mission-critical statement, I don't think either way. I can see the importance of the items of what they're requesting, and I think what we're struggling over is whether, I don't think there's anybody that doesn't support the folks sitting up there. Okay, and once we get past that, I think that we just need to clarify what the downside risk is. And I'm not seeing a downside risk. Obviously, I'm not an attorney, but if we could cover that with some simple verbiage, like within the our abilities to enforce, and without influencing, the planning boards or whatever. I think we need to keep it simple.
Man, along those lines, what about doing two resolutions? and tonight, consider the FERC one, and I don't believe DEC will be reviewing air permits this week, and get an air permit resolution together that has revised language. I can work on it, I can circulate it to the legislature for your review, and maybe we could have a special meeting next week to discuss that.
Which the first resolution, the original one that we proposed that didn't go anyplace back in September. That
The
takes-
short one.
The short one. Takes care of the FERC aspect.
Yeah.
Okay, I just have a question about the county planning board. Are we sure that this is going to be submitted to the county board from the town of Minden?
I can't, and again, now we're getting
Is
it,
it-
that's exactly why this is a very delicate area, because
Well,
I'm not, and I certainly don't want to advise the town of Minden what to do, but there certainly is a potential that it would be coming before the county planning board.
But they don't have to, right? Is that-
I really don't want to speak on
Could
the legalities
Chair-
of what
Chair,
they're
could I ask
doing in
Ken
Minden.
Rose if he knows? Ken, do you know if the town planning boards have to submit it to the county planning board?
If they're subject to 239M, yes, they have to. Which if they're going for an area variance, use variance, or site plan review, yeah, then it gets referred to the county board.
Okay, thank you.
I think where I get lost in my confusion is and I hear Megan say that this potentially could come before the county planning board, and therefore if we give a opinion that somehow isn't good. I like giving my opinion. If anybody hasn't ever noticed, I like giving my opinion, and if that means that I'd like to tell the planning board members, one of which I submit his name, because if I don't do it here, I'm going to call him on the phone and tell him what I'd like to have. I mean, I just don't see where that opens us up. I think that's, maybe I don't understand it.
As the county legislature, you've delegated certain powers to the county planning board, which includes site plan review, the list goes on. It's their job to look at a project and make a decision on land use. So the body, the Montgomery County Legislature, as a body taking an action and directing people to do certain things and making statements and doing findings, that these findings would be the job of the planning board to do, is where there could potentially be a conflict.
But if we change those resolves, as I said, as Duke had said, we're not telling them any longer that we're no longer directing anyone to do anything. We're just saying, this is our opinion, and we support what our other municipalities who, the town of Minden, Sharon, some of these other towns that were mentioned aren't going to be having it come before their planning boards either, because they can't submit it. It's not in their town. They're just giving an opinion.
And I would like to make sure, if that's what I'm directed to do by the legislature, I would like to just make sure the language is worded so that it's giving an opinion, not giving a direction. And I think that if I could, I think it's gonna, I mean, if you want to do it all tonight and amend it, but I'm gonna have several suggestions on cleaning it up. Also, if you look at it, there's like double whereas clauses, there's a bunch of typos. I would like to just have an opportunity to fix it. And
I already fixed it.
oh, you fixed it already? Okay. So maybe those typos aren't an issue, but I would like to...
I mean, how long would it take us to go through these three resolves and just add that sentence at the beginning of what Bob had suggested and some of the things that I
You're the legislature, and I've made my recommendation, and you know, if it's your...
I don't think the 20th is a good, to take another week.
Well, the 20th is for the FERC. By passing the first resolution, that's the FERC address. Correct me if I'm wrong in misunderstanding. The whereases that are directing studies and such are for the state? Is that,
Well, you've got whereases and resolves that actually relate to both agencies, okay? So, just as a matter of practicality, the one question of EIS versus EA is going to be a question that becomes moot in a week. The value of what you've got here to FERC. And I also should be clear that there's an opportunity for FERC to still be involved. So it's not invalid to be saying these things to FERC, because FERC's approval of an EA still is conditional upon other things that have to happen at state level. So the FERC actually is still part of the picture. So, I mean, I would argue that this content is valuable for both agencies. However, like it's been said, time still is of the essence because of that 20th date. You know, one of the things that, I'm just looking at this and I see how you could potentially say, I agree that the whereases could be as they are, but you know, you could say here for the resolve, and the resolve for the EIS is, I think it doesn't necessarily have to change, but you could say for the next resolve, where it says that an independent comprehensive analysis, you could just say resolve that the county supports the request by the town of Minden for an independent comprehensive analysis, blah, blah, blah. And you could say the next one, resolve that the county supports the request by the town of Minden that a comprehensive analysis of proposed design relative to throughput, blah, blah, blah. And then that same phrase basically gets inserted for the next 4 or 5 whereases, and then you're done. I think that would be probably the most expeditious way of getting this into the hands where it needs to be, where it needs to go as soon as possible.
I think something like that works. The board is just trying to show its support for these other communities and for these people. And that's really all we can do, is just some verbal support. So let's just make some modifications along those lines, and I think that will suffice.
I second that.
Are you sponsoring the amendment?
you're sponsoring that amendment, correct?
Yes.
No, am I, was that an amendment you were sponsoring?
Yes.
Okay.
I've gone from not sponsoring the resolution now to, right, I'm on, okay.
Congress second.
I'll second the amendment.
Roy?
I'll second the amendment.
Okay.
I have a question saying, all right, this is coming up to 20th, right? When they approve this or disapprove this, then it goes to the other branches of the state, correct? What I'm asking you is how long time is involved in that space afterwards? In other words, does it happen a week later or 2 weeks later? Or do we have time to submit a second resolution supporting them at that level instead of this? I just don't think I have the expertise to act on that resolution. And I wish I had a question, wish they could answer that question. How much time is involved between them?
We don't know.
Well, I mean, they're going to run out right away before the end of the week and do it, or?
I can tell you that DEC is already looking at these things. We've met with DEC, they started already to look at these things. So, the longer we wait, the less relevant these
Well,
things.
I'm totally in support of you, and I'm totally in support of the original resolution. I don't feel I have the knowledge to vote on this one. I mean, that's the way I feel, so. And the second one, and the longer one, sort of. But I would, afterwards, if it was going to the other departments, then I may, know what to do at that point, that's all.
This is not something that happens in sequence. DEC is actually, the air quality permit applications have already been submitted by Dominion. Those things are being reviewed right now. Draft permits are being issued. So, as it turns out, FERC ends this piece of its part of the process in the near future. But DEC has already started. So having that information provided for as soon as possible would be helpful.
Can we clarify what the actual amendment is and where the resolve, what resolve clause they're going into?
Ask the sponsor.
I'm sorry,
How would you
one
clarify your
clarification
amendment
as to
as
what
to
the
where the
actual
word-
wording is. You know, like Keith said, that the county supports the town of Minden. So do you want that in, it looks to me like three
Well, I'm gonna ask you-
resolve clauses?
To go over that again, because we're not just seeking just to support one town here, we're seeking to support the whole, we're just looking for the little modifier clause.
Well, what I was suggesting is for that second resolve, that the county supports, or the county of Montgomery supports the request by the town of Minden for an independent comprehensive analysis, blah, blah, blah.
Or all municipalities, because there's others that have sponsored or requested it too, right?
That would make sense.
So just, I would think
That's
all
right.
municipalities, that keeps it, like, and why not just do it in all the resolves?
Yeah.
I agree with Duke, just do it with all 5 resolves. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, here we go. Would you like me to do one at a time, even though it's all the same language? This is what I would be proposing, or, and I would like to see this actually on all of the resolved. That the Montgomery County Legislature supports those communities seeking, and then from that point you go to eliminate the word "that" and go to an independent comprehensive analysis. And unless you want to vote on them separately, I would insert that same clause, only in English. The second resolve, that the county legislature supports those communities seeking a comprehensive analysis, ...
Except the last one, I assume.
The last one is good like it is.
Right.
I'll second that.
Roy already did.
Oh, okay.
You guys just need to vote on it.
All right.
Do you want a roll call?
No. Starting to be dense. Can you read your insert?
You want me to read it again?
Yeah, Montgomery County supports.
Legislature.
I would like it to say that resolved that the Montgomery County Legislature supports those communities. And then it's whatever the verb is. Seeking an independent comprehensive analysis. And the second one, just seeking, that's right, same way, same language, seeking a comprehensive analysis of the 3 proposed design. Be the same.
All right, so the third resolve.
The
We'll
third
read
resolve
the
is just to send a copy, so that's not necessary.
No, the long bullet point one. Resolve the Montgomery County Legislature.
Right, the third one would be the same thing. Because the first one is resolve, I missed the full EIS that I was talking
Yeah,
about.
there's a
Yeah.
resolve that needs to be pulled out.
That's the same thing there. Because we're not seeking the full EIS. We're supporting those communities that are.
Right.
And then after the bullets, do you see there's a resolve that needs to just be brought down, separated?
We
That's
want
fine.
the full EIS.
They're not, one is not being prepared, no.
Sounds right.
It still makes, I would argue it makes sense to ask for that.
We want the full.
It's
Still-
unlikely to get it, the person's kind of already left the barn, but.
Okay.
But the other communities have asked for it.
Well,
Yes.
You're always going to have the alternative of doing the Article 78 there, right? You can always do the Article 78 there anyway, right, with the full EIS?
I'm not an attorney.
Well, environmental impact statements are subject to local review. They're self-enforcing, and they can be challenged if it doesn't go your way. I'm not an attorney either, but I play when I'm the council. Are we set?
I got it. Need to vote when you're ready.
Okay.
Does that?
I just want to clarify, there is one resolve that's stuck in this last bullet point.
I moved it.
That's moved down,
Yeah.
so that one you're also including the insertion, and the very last resolve, no insertion.
No change in the last result.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
You gotta call the vote, not me.
All right. No other? All right, roll call.
Legislator Duchessis. This is on
Aye.
the amendment.
Okay. Aye.
Legislator Wheeler.
Yes.
Legislator Isabel
This is on the amendment?
on the amendment.
Aye.
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
Chairman Kelly.
Yes.
Legislator Quackenbush.
Yes.
Legislator Diamond.
Aye.
Legislator Whites.
I abstain.
Legislator Beniak.
Aye.
On the resolution as amended, any discussion? All right. Roll call?
Legislator Quackenbush.
Aye.
Legislator Diamond.
Aye.
Legislator Whites.
I abstain.
Legislator Beniak.
Aye.
Legislator Duchessis.
Aye.
Legislator Wheeler.
Aye.
Legislator Isabel.
And this is as the school is revised by Mr. Duchessis. Aye.
Legislator Patel.
Aye.
Chairman Kelly.
Aye.
Pass.
I'll look for a...
Got it.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.